Welcome back, everyone, to Law School Life and Beyond's Leadership Series. My name is Katya, and I am the host of this podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by John-Paul Rodrigues. John-Paul, or JP, is the Paralegal Program Coordinator at Trias College, and so he's going to be talking to us a little bit about that today. So with that, thank you so much, JP, for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Katya. Nice to talk with you here again, and glad we can reconnect here after it's been a while, and very happy to be on this podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for having me. For our listeners listening right now, JP had me on his Justice in Pieces podcast a while ago now, and it was awesome chatting with you, so it's really nice to see you again.
Perfect. I'm glad to return the favor here, and it's strange. I think I feel weird being on the other side. Like now I'm in the line of fire, so now I know how all the people I've talked to feel.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird switch of roles. But I guess I will start with my first question, which is, what drew you to a career in law?
I think, as far as I can remember, I think it was maybe like wanting to be like Johnny Cochran when I was young there, that I always wanted something in law. I thought it was cool, the whole, if the glove don't fit, you must have quit. I think at a very young age, I felt that was sort of the thing that I wanted to do. And again, back then, and something maybe we'll touch on later, it all seemed like all the decisions were kind of going around that path, right? It's like, I want to go into law. What do you do? And it was, okay, go and study poli-sci. And I think after a couple of years, I switched to history at the University of Waterloo there. But I figured everything was to go to law school and become a lawyer. So as far back as I can think, it just seemed really interesting to me. And I loved, debating and speaking and doing all sorts of, model UN and things like that in high school. And so it was always kind of the goal. And that's what I kind of made my focus there on in university, and writing the LSATs there, and then got into the different law schools. Ultimately went to Osgoode. I think it's just that the ability to help others and kind of use your ability to advocate. I think something that from a very young age really drew my attention to it.
Okay, and then when you got into law school, was it everything you hoped and dreamed, or were you disappointed?
Well, I love the law school experience, not necessarily maybe at the time studying law. I think it's funny now that I'm teaching. It's like I'm always on students to do their homework, and then it's kind of, I'm sure my law school professors will be like, oh, I remember you barely came to class sometimes. It's kind of ironic now, the shoe's on the other foot. But no, I love the law school experience. I think when I first got into Osgoode, I think within a couple of days they had the student government's called the Legal and Literary Society. So they had first year reps, and I remember running, and I think I had a Justin Timberlake themed posters or something for first year rep.
Nice.
And just enjoyed the fun. I kind of saw it like an experience there of just enjoying the people, getting to know everybody there. So after that, I think eventually. After a couple of years, I ran, and I think unopposed, luckily, but as the student council president, I remember being involved in a lot of student life. I used to DJ some of the Halloween parties and things like that. So I really enjoyed just getting to know all of the different students. One of the big things we had was we had the rivalry with U of T. We had this charity basketball game at the then Air Canada Centre. I guess it'll always be the Air Canada Centre to me. But we got to play against U of T, and I remember the Osgoode profs got to play against the U of T profs, which was very entertaining on the Air Canada Centre court. So lots of fun. I really enjoyed the experience. Really enjoyed getting to meet people. And I think extracurricular activities, it's again certainly finding that balance, right? And I think maybe looking back on it, maybe needed to turn that balance a little bit more into the school side. But I think people forget that, and it's something I realized recently, where I talked to reconnect with a lot of my colleagues from law schools, that we just remember all of those experiences. You remember being in the moot court at like 3 a.m. studying for your first semester exams, and we still bring up those memories. So as much as it is about obviously excelling and hitting the books and reading and learning the case law and all of that, it's also important to make those connections. I mean, it's what you're going to take back. When you look at the 15, 20, 30, 50 years later, I'm sure when they have those reunions, those are the things that you're going to talk about, right? So you want to have those memories and enjoy the experience, because certainly, as long as you get decent enough grades, I suppose, there's always going to be something with a law degree that's going to open up to you. And you don't want that time to go by without enjoying the experience as well. And I think that's certainly what I did in getting to know. And then we reconnect and we remember all of those things, right? So I think that's something to really stress to all those, is that you can work hard, but you should also play hard too, right, while you still have the opportunity. And again, there's such a diverse student body, so there's got to be something that's going to really captivate you, whether it's a club, whether it's a hobby, right? It's being on some of the intramural teams. Find something you're passionate about and kind of use that to supplement. And again, we're looking at a field where there are a lot of people working really long hours, but you have to find something to take care of your mental health, and that goes 100%. All the way back into law school, where you don't want to burn out and hate the whole experience because all you're doing is studying, and maybe you're not getting even the marks that you think you're getting, because you have the top students from around the world and around the country in your classes. So even when you're doing your absolute best and you're studying and you're devoting all your time to it, it's not always going to result in what you think it's going to result in.
And I always say to younger students, law school will take up as much time as you allow it. There is always going to be more case law to read. I don't know anyone who's actually current on all of their readings. It just doesn't happen. And so you really just need to kind of allocate your time accordingly for your mental health. And I say too that I have a job, like I work at the Bull and Barrel, and I think I need that job more for my mental health than for financial reasons. It is just so nice to go in and worry about chicken wings and beer. Like, there's nothing catastrophic that's going to happen in that building. Knock on wood that I don't jinx anything, but it's just really nice to just go in there and not law school. So I recommend to people that they should either try and get like a part-time job or do extracurriculars that are related to law school, or even not related, like the intramurals, like that's so fun. So I think that's excellent advice. So my next question is, what led you to leaving traditional law practice to becoming the coordinator of the paralegal program at, is it Trios or Trios?
I'm always confused. I don't know if I've been getting it wrong. I think I go with Trios, but it could be Trios.
Oh, wow, okay.
I don't know. I think it's Trios.
Okay.
I think maybe we take a step back there. So one of the other things there, I was talking about the law school experience before there. One of the things I was really fortunate to be able to do at Osgoode is in my second and in between first and second year, as well as between second and third year, I got to go on some study abroad. So Osgoode had something in Italy, in Firenze. So I got to spend the summer there. I think it was tax law, but not so much the law, but being able to kind of take in the environment there. And again, part of those experiences there with your classmates. So while I was doing that, I was really drawn to kind of opportunities abroad. And one of the things that Osgoode had was a Teach in China program. So once I had completed my program there and I wrote the barrister and solicitor's exams and passed everything, again, while waiting for articling, I took this opportunity to go over there and teach for a year. I think I was teaching contract law. I was teaching tort law. I mean, all sorts of different things there. And while I was there, ironic, I think it's kind of always, my friends always bring this up. So one of the things there was, so I used to always do the music and DJing and stuff like that at law school, but there wasn't that many foreigners. It was a city called Chongqing in China. So there was a friend of mine who was like singing and I would DJ, and then they were like, "Can you sing too?" And I'm like, "No, I can't hold a tune, but I suppose I could probably rap." And no one would really know if I messed up because they're not really catching all the lyrics there. So we started doing that, I got to have this, dream. When you're talking about what do you want, I mean, I think everyone secretly has like a dream of doing like entertainment or music,
performer, yeah,
some kind of performance, right? So I got to live that out, and one of the things we did was make this song about the city Chongqing. It was like called Chongqing State of Mind, and I made this little PowerPoint video, and apparently went viral there, and then we got to have like little concerts and stuff. So while I was doing this, I mean, kind of getting back, I think maybe ventured way off to your question there, but it's important because I never ended up getting to do my articles within like the first year, the second year, third year, and the reward of that, every time I would come back and try to apply for different articling positions, and then it didn't work out, and then I went for a second year in China, then it didn't work out, and went the third year in China, and finally I get this letter from the Law Society. It's like, well, because you didn't do your articles in 3 years after you wrote the bar and solicitor's exams, you got to start all over and rewrite them. So I think I'm one of the few. I don't know. I've never heard of any. Maybe if anyone's listening to this, you can hit me up and let me know if you also have written and passed the barristers and solicitors exams in Ontario twice, because I had to go and redo them. And so finally I got my articling done. And I guess sort of a circuitous route back to your question is, so I got into, after doing all of that, I came back, I got my articling done. I got called to the bar in September, I guess probably very close to maybe exactly 8 years ago. And so I thought, look, I'm in kind of a roundabout way, but I'm into that traditional law path of I finished my articles, got hired back, want to stay here and maybe, eventually either go out on my own or continue to work, in with partnerships or as an associate in criminal defense. And eventually then I did go out, started my own practice, and I thought, okay, well, this is going to be great, and try to find mentors and help to find getting, your own clients and things like that. And one of the things that opened up was being a telephone duty counsel, which is an interesting job in and of itself. You got to have the ability to stay up, really late night hours. Like, if you're not a night owl, it's not going to be something really conducive. But so I started doing that, and then I had a few clients in various different areas. Things would come in, but I could never quite shake that experience I had in China teaching. So I always knew, that education, and I was never really interested in teaching to begin with. But I mean, I really had this great experience, and so I was looking at, well, what can I do to kind of supplement my practice? And so I got a job teaching in different colleges, and eventually I got to try us there. And I found that I enjoyed teaching more than I enjoyed practicing law. And certainly I had kind of a mix, like every day was different. And I think that was kind of like, it's like a slash, I was lawyer / duty counsel / legal instructor. And, all of those were really interesting things. But I just found that the more I would be teaching, the more I enjoyed it. And it's hard to kind of find the time to do everything, especially with your clients. You got to obviously you have a duty to your clients, and you don't want to be taking on something that you don't have the time for, right? And in addition to all those responsibilities as a lawyer, so I just found myself teaching more and getting more hours teaching, and eventually, the position of a program coordinator became open, and I thought, well, what more can I do on top of teaching? Well, then develop the curriculum and the course content, and again, further work on guiding these paralegal students in terms of opportunities for them to get into their practice. And it goes back all the way to China, where I was kind of developing those courses. So when you teach, kind of you want kind of more control of the materials. You know what you want to highlight and stress. So that really is kind of where I got from that traditional. I mean, I still have a practice. It's still, a few clients here and there, and I still do the duty counsel work. But I just found that, my calling there, when I was most passionate about, was teaching and helping students kind of achieve their goals. So it's not, it's certainly something that, you wouldn't have set out, and certainly I wouldn't have set out back thinking, well, hey, I'm going to do all these different things. But it's an opportunity that I think more and more, if you are looking to establish your own practice, that people call things like side hustles or other businesses, but it's important to kind of have different things that you are interested and passionate about, because it's not necessarily a path where you just open up your practice or you become an associate or you become a partner somewhere else. I mean, there's different opportunities. And I think for me, it was, well, you're doing something you really like doing, and why not find more time to continue to cultivate that?
Wow, what an interesting path that you've had. And I'm so glad that I brought you back to your home, which is teaching, and that you found that through being in China for 3 years. That is so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially with the pandemic, you find that there's not as many opportunities right now, I guess, to go and get. I know you certainly benefited from that this past summer yourself, right? But it's getting that different experiences, because we come in a very whether it's Canadian or North American centric like view of here's what it's like, and I think you get this herd mentality when you go to law school, right? I mean, one of the things we didn't talk about the law school experience is that everyone kind of thinks, look, you get in, maybe on the first day of school, you see one of the big Bay Street firms kind of plastered on the walls at the school, or the name of the school itself or something. And you think, well, that's what I want to do, because it seems like it may pay you the most money and everyone's kind of talking about it, and they have this big recruitment and everyone's doing it, right? And the reality, I mean, I think when you look at the numbers, it's a lot smaller than what it seems like. But at the time, you're kind of caught up in it. And like, I better go and do my applications and apply. And you may not really have that much of an interest in it, but you want to be part of that group, right? I mean, you're all kind of going through that together. And then for some people, obviously, they go and they end up doing their summer there, and they come back and an article, and they go down that path, and it may very well be for them, right? But it's not for the vast majority of people that go to law school, and it doesn't seem like that at the time. And for any of the students, I mean, you might be kind of grappling with that, right? Is that, do I want to do this? Do I want to do something else? And maybe you're not even sure. I mean, even after you finish law school, you may not even be sure what kind of area of law. I mean, people switch different areas as well. But I think it's certainly important to get experiences, because years later, again, you're going to be thinking back. Like, I'm always going to remember. I mean, for me, there's so much from that experience. I mean, I met my wife in China. I got this this teaching experience that I'm doing years later, and it all wouldn't have happened if I had maybe lucked out into some kind of articling job. I wouldn't have gone, right? I mean, I would have said, well, I better go and get articling done, right? So I think it's very funny how things kind of work out. But when you look back at it, but at the time, it's kind of, I didn't get an OCI, I didn't get an in-firm interview, and instead you kind of figure out what to do in your summer of your second year, and then after when everyone's articling, you kind of feel, hey, I'm missing out, right? But I think that's part of this mentality we have, is like kind of keeping up with the Joneses, but you don't have to. You have your own life. Look for what makes you happy there, and certainly now looking back, it just seems strange to have felt that, hey, everyone's doing this, and I missed out on all these years of I'm behind. It's like, but the reality is not. You're living your own life. So I think in the end, it certainly worked out, and I got to do it. I'm continuing to do the things that I really like to do. And that's the most important thing.
And I think that's excellent advice. Thank you. So my next question is, what led you to starting your podcast, Justice in Pieces?
So it kind of happened accidentally. It actually, thank the pandemic for it. So just like probably in law school, March of 2020 for students, probably all had the same experience. I remember, I think it was the NBA kind of shut down. There was like a positive case, and I remember sitting with some of my students. We'd have like Wednesday wing night or something after class, and so I had some former students come in and talk in person about passing their licensing exams. So remember, we were sitting there, and I'm thinking, okay, this is it. Like, it's serious now, because before it didn't kind of really crystallize in North America. So I think the next day was leading into like a reading week or a March break, and so we had a week off, and then we came back, and they're like, well, now everything is done virtually. It's going to be on Microsoft Teams, and figure out kind of how to make your classes engaging. So I thought, okay, like how long is this really going to last? Maybe it's going to be 2 weeks, and then we'll
Right.
be back in April. I guess you
2 years
didn't have the
later.
foresight there that we'd still be here
Yeah.
in September 2021. But so I said, okay, what can I do? And I reached out to all my colleagues. I said, hey, can you come in and talk to my students? I think it'll be interesting rather than. We have like a 6 to 10. I would teach evenings. I said, well, what can I do for 4 hours? There's no way that it's going to be
Online.
engaging. Like imagine, I don't know
Yeah.
how long your lectures. I'm sure there's not a 4 hour time block. So especially at night, right? I mean, I'm like, imagine Friday night, 9:50, and you're just getting to the last 10 minutes. You want to just get to the weekend there.
Yeah.
So I was like, what can I do to be creative here? And so I started reaching out to my colleagues, said, hey, can you come in and talk to my students? So I had this idea, for like the first week. I said I could bring in 5 people and, something new every day. And so we did it. And I said, okay, well, it worked. We had someone in every day for a week. Let's do it for a second week. Hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll be back. And then as it just kept continuing. So another week, another a group of different lawyers and paralegals and legal professionals. And then, so again, they would come into, and we would send them the link, they would join in class. And I think it went really, really great for the students. They got to ask all these questions.
Yeah.
And again, kind of what we were talking about is like demystifying the legal profession because even in law school, I mean, we learn all this theory and we learn about case law, but you don't certainly have as much opportunity to actually talk to practitioners. I mean, sometimes the different clubs would bring in guest speakers once in a while, but again, in the course of 2 weeks, you had 10 different professionals kind of share their stories and you could ask them questions and connect and network, and all while everything was remote. It wasn't very difficult. You don't have to worry about getting people to come and stick around till like 7 o'clock downtown and getting students all in the room. So I thought this was great. And again, we eventually kind of fine tuned it. I think I started it with Skype and like sharing screens, and it was kind of hard to get through. But eventually, then I just kept like, who else can I bring in? And I believe it was an MP from BC, Jenny Kwan. One of the students had a connection, and I thought, well, hey, other students in the school will probably want to listen to this. So what can I figure out to get a way people can watch? So it just led to like figuring out this, Zoom has this stream to YouTube. So I set up a little YouTube channel, kind of tested it out. And so we had Jenny Kwan in, and we streamed it so other students can watch it, and it was recorded. And then I thought, well, hey, this really worked out. And we had Jagmeet Singh and the Honorable Andrew Scheer and Elizabeth May, all these politicians. And I thought, hey, this is great. We should be streaming and recording these. And then eventually, after doing it for a few of them, I said, why don't we just do them for everyone, right? And then that way I can share the links, kind of put it on social media, and any student, whether a paralegal student, a law student, even lawyers and paralegals can watch it, because I think they can claim the hours because it's sort of substantive learning, and it's free education. And there's so many people doing great podcasts, resources for students in the pandemic. I think if there's so much you wanted to learn about any area of law, there are many different people out there doing such amazing things. So I thought, they're coming to talk to my students anyways. It's something that future students can gain from, law students can gain from, anyone interested in law, and it's a great opportunity to hear from different lawyers, different paralegals, judges, politicians from all these different areas, and certainly for my students get the opportunities to ask questions. And I think even with the YouTube streams, they can ask questions live. So it just kept going. And I think maybe at the beginning I set myself up by doing it every day. I said, okay, well, let's keep doing it every day. And it's
a lot of work.
It's kind of wild because like now, in the summer I kind of scale back a little bit to a couple times a week. But now that the school year is back, probably we'll go back to it. But I think I've had the opportunity to speak to like close to 400 different people.
You must,
in the
by
legal
this
profession.
point.
And, I haven't kept count. I know not too long ago in like March, it was like 300. So I'm probably between 300 and 400 somewhere, but it's amazing. And I think you probably get the same, you can relate to it because you hear all of these amazing stories and you realize that, of what we were talking about before is that there's so many different paths, whether it's even in law school. I mean, I've spoken to people who come back to law school as mature students in their 50s, and they have this incredible journey, or you have just the different areas of law, what drew them. And there are so many paths, right? I mean, back when I was telling you, I thought, the only path to going to law school was doing really well in undergrad and like in a poli-sci program, and there you will be. But there's so many different paths in terms of where you can go from in undergrad to law school, when you go to law school, what you study in law school, what law school you go to. And I mean, I've heard from people from all around the world. Again, with technology, you can stream someone in, I think I had from Costa Rica and India and all over the US. Cool. And, it's all stuff that the students are getting for free and anyone's getting to be able to watch. And I think, at the end of the day, I'm benefiting the most because I hear like 400 different stories, and you realize that, well, with a law degree in the legal profession, there's so much you can do that you don't have to kind of go into that path of it's just OCI or bust type of thing that some people have this mentality. There's so many different things you can do. Even if you start in one place, you can go into a different area in law. You can go from big law to medium size to in-house, boutique, or the reverse, or into education, or into government, or into nonprofits. And that's kind of what I've been looking at is this. And it's not like there's like a big formula. I go on to like LinkedIn, and sometimes there's a post and I just quickly send a message to someone, and maybe in the next week they come in and speak, right? And it's been it's really great because all of these people are taking the time to volunteer and share. And I think one of the things in the pandemic is, again, that we're seeing a lot more from the legal community step up and share their journeys. And it's important. I mean, we learn about a lot of the successes, and we also learn about kind of the missteps and the setbacks, because they happen, and we feel that when that happens to us, it's not happening to anyone else. So it's really important to kind of hear, well, look, no, I made that mistake, or I couldn't get an OCI job either, and I felt really discouraged, and this is what I had done, and here's where I am. And it's really great because I think it really demystifies that other people are going through those experiences, and you're not alone, whether it's not being able to get those kinds of jobs, or not passing a licensing exam, right? You might think, again, it's the end of the world, but there are people who have had that happen to them, and they're doing just fine. And there's so many different areas, right? So I think really I've enjoyed it, and I hope everyone who has had that opportunity. I mean, we've had you and Ryan and Joey and all sorts of different students from different schools on too, because again, there's so many incredible stories. And I think what you're doing here is something that, for many years, I mean, I think a lot of students could benefit from hearing and being part of that demystification of, what is it like to be a law student, and what is it like, what are we experiencing, what advice, and the more that is out there, the better everyone is going to be doing as a result.
And it was so funny. I said this on your podcast, but how this one started, it was just Joey. Him and Ryan had started Law School Life and Beyond. And then he was like, I want to do a podcast. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I can do it if you want. And then I was like, what do you want me to do? He's like, well, I don't know. He's like, do something and we'll see if it works. I was like, okay. So I was like, I have no idea what a labor lawyer does. I have no idea what a construction lawyer does. I don't know what a program coordinator at the paralegal program in Trios does. So I was like, these are all the different paths that you can take beyond law school. And I'm just genuinely curious myself. And if other people find this helpful, that's awesome. And so I feel like we've had similar origin stories here with that.
Yeah, and I think it's not like it's like an origin story where it comes together. After meticulous planning. I mean, maybe there are things like that. I think a lot of people just have this idea, hey, I want to do this, and let's go about doing it. And I think that's really where, with anything, right? I mean, I think you need to kind of, shoot your shot there and try it out and see how it goes, because you never know where it's going to lead you to, right? And I think certainly by doing this, it's given me plenty of opportunities to connect with so many different people. And it's interesting because then my students will connect with them. I know a lot of my students got internship and jobs with some of the people who have come in and spoke, because they're like, hey, you are one of JP's students. I got to talk to. I heard you part of the asking questions. It was really interesting, or vice versa, and it kind of makes it a little easier to have that conversation. I think, one of the things that's really been difficult probably in the pandemic is networking, because you can't kind of go and have a cup of coffee in the same way as, setting up a Zoom call and maybe reaching out and you kind of are approaching someone in the dark. It's a little bit tougher. But so I told all my students, well, look, you have a natural starting point. You can say, hey, I listened to you on Justice in Pieces. I really enjoyed what you were sharing about family law. I'm interested in getting into family law. I wonder if you have some advice for me. And it goes from there, right?
Some good talking points.
A lot of the lawyers and paralegals and stuff that have come on and said, hey, it is that easy, right? In terms of reaching out, right? You don't, you miss all the shots you don't take, so you might as well give it a shot. The worst is they don't reply to you, and you talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I found that there's so much benefit. You learn so much from all the different people. And they also come back and they're looking for a paralegal student or an internship student, or they're looking for someone they know that, hey, I spoke to JP, he has students. Maybe he has somebody. So it kind of works in both directions. So it's really great. And then you see all the amazing things these people are doing, and you feel like certainly sharing that to the students. And I think everyone benefits when you see the success. Though we all succeed, right? When you see the success of everyone in our profession.
And then the different paths to that success. So I agree. Which brings me to my next question. How do you define success?
So I think part of it has to be, equating success to happiness, right? I mean, you have to look at what is going to bring you your happiness, right? Where's your passion? What are you wanting to do? I mean, it's very tempting when you hear a lot of these stories, or you listen to a lot of the different lawyers and legal professionals, and you think, hey, I'm just going to kind of replicate their journey. But that's not your journey, right? I mean, maybe you are interested in it. Part of it is kind of coming organically at the time, but certainly you can draw upon those experiences. But for your own successes, what is it that's going to bring you happiness, right? I mean, if happiness for you is being in big law, then you're going to enjoy that experience, right? I mean, there's that old cliche, right? If you love what you do, then you never work a day in your life. And
exactly,
I think in terms of successes, you want to find that job or that career path, whatever it is, that is what you're passionate about. And if you do, whether you find it, when you're in law school, or you find it in your articles, or you kind of bounce between a couple of different jobs, eventually you're going to find what you're really passionate about. And it may not even be fully in law as well, right? I mean, there are people who go on and do something completely different. I know I had a classmate of mine in law school who's producing music, right? And I'm sure he's loving doing something that he's really passionate about. But again, a lot of the stuff, writing your own contracts and that, right, kind of comes from that legal knowledge. So there's so many different paths, again, to kind of echo this. And you have the different opportunities there to kind of look at what's there. And again, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do? What brings you that happiness then will equate to that definition of success. Because you can win all the awards, you can make all the money, you can be recognized by all your peers in terms of successful deals, winning cases, big trials. But if you don't really love that, eventually you're just going to tire from it, right? You're going to see it as a lot of work. You're not going to have time for anything else. So, I mean, you want to find something where you are able to find that happiness. What is it that you want? Do you want to spend more time with your family? Do you want to be able to travel? Do you want to be working on big deals? Do you want to be having an opportunity to have time to, or just have free time, right? To go and do your hobbies or do a podcast or make music or whatever it is you're really passionate about, right? So, I mean, you want to find that path that brings you to your happiness. So that's where I would equate, the success there is to find something in the field there that brings you that happiness. And again, if it obviously can help you pay all the bills and everything, then no bonus for you. But certainly you don't want to be going into a path where you really don't like it and think, well, hey, if I do this for another year, it's going to change, or I'm almost there. I just need to, put in another thousands of billable hours next year, and then there I'll be. But again, I mean, the sooner you find what you really love, do it, right? And it certainly will be far more enjoyable for you than doing something that you're not really interested in just because it's what you started with.
And I think that kind of goes into my last question, which is what advice do you have for future or current law students? Do you have anything to add to that besides really having a conversation with yourself about what makes you happy, what is going to make you feel successful, and going with that? Is there anything else that you would like to add for future and current law students or paralegals, actually?
No, it's interesting. I've had, that's probably the last question I always end with, and you get, again, 400 different answers. But I think all of them kind of touch on similar things is again, going and looking for your own journey, finding your own voice, your own path. And certainly you need to put in a lot of preparation in terms of looking at what the different options you want. But go out and enjoy and experience what it is, whatever it is that you're doing there in law school, whatever you're studying. Get kind of a diverse set of courses, take on some extracurriculars. If you get a chance to kind of go overseas, enjoy all of that and certainly put in your best and do your best. Because at the end of the day, all you can do is what the best that you can do in the situation that you are. And don't kind of get caught up in the rat race. Don't kind of be worried about what everyone else is doing, but focus on kind of what it is that you like to do, right? And if you go through your whole law school experience enjoying that time, learning and looking at those different opportunities, again, find the one that really resonates with you. And maybe you don't know it in your first year. Certainly I didn't know. You take all these broad courses and you might have, really cool criminal prof and you're like, hey, that's it. I want to do criminal law. And then 3 months later, it might be something different. But again, when you're going through that, certainly look at what it is that's going to bring you that happiness. Because if that's what you're doing in the field, you're not going to feel overburdened as much because you enjoy it, right? Otherwise, it is very tempting, and we work very long hours. And, sometimes it's kind of like a badge of honor. Like, I worked 17 straight hours today, but I got all of this done. I mean, it's not really something that's conducive to long-term, your long-term mental health and physical health for that matter. So again, make sure you find that balance. You find the things that you really like to do and you do it, and you take care of yourself. And at the end of the day, if that's what you're doing, you're going to be happy with your choices, regardless of where it ends up being, whether it's in law, whether it's in something related to law, whether it's something completely different, because at that point, you're really happy with the choices that you've made, and you can measure your success with your own happiness.
Well, I think that's great advice, JP. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so nice seeing you again. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
Perfect. Thanks so much again. Again, I do appreciate getting the chance to be on the other side of the equation.
And that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. And be sure to tune in next week for Law School Life and Beyond's next episode of the Leadership Series.